Welcome back to another edition of studentrentertips.com. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about dealing with your landlord. Now, it's important to remember that your relationship with your landlord is going to be an integral part of the way that things are going to get done, because it's a human relationship. The first thing that I want to suggest is that you should be pleasant to your landlord. You should know your rights, all the rights that we're going to talk about today and in this video, as well as all the other rights that are on the website. But the important thing is that you assert them conscientiously. As college students, you don't want to be the quintessential difficult college renter. Landlords are wary of college students already because a lot of times, maybe less frequently than is suggested, college students will trash apartments or they won't take care of different housing units in the way that is expected of them, and landlords lose money on that. But you want to assert yourself as somebody different than that. So make sure you're pleasant. The second thing about being pleasant is that you have to understand that your landlord has certain rights as well, and you need to respect those. If you don't respect his rights as a landlord, then it's going to be difficult for your relationship to continue in an amicable way. The second suggestion that I want to talk about are understanding your landlord's interests in your tenancy. The landlord has two principal sets of interests. He has an interest in the financial relationship that you have with him and his reputational interest. If landlords don't have tenants in their properties, it's probably obvious to see that they don't have valuable income that should be coming in. They have a mortgage to pay, and if they don't receive the rent income, it makes it very difficult for them to pay that mortgage oftentimes. So you have to understand that you are a financial asset to them, and that if you're paying your rent timely, you're going to be an asset to them as well. Secondly, as far as reputational interests go, they want to avoid dispute. It's costly for them to avoid dispute. It's costly for them to be in disputes, and it's important for them to avoid disputes because they don't want to deal with the time and effort and money that goes into that, like going to small claims court or dealing with issues that raise dispute that are very time costly. And secondly, on the part of their reputational interest, they don't want to be known as a slumlord. They have a reputation in the community oftentimes. They have a reputation in their property. And students talk to students, especially landlords who rent to students frequently. And so the value of their properties actually probably increases if they are good with their tenants and they're responsible. So they don't want to be known as slumlords because it reduces the value of their own property. The third thing that I want to talk about is something that we've suggested and actually really made a point to talk about in a lot of the videos, and that is when you are communicating with your landlord, get it in writing. It's important, perhaps even one of the most crucial things when you move in, move out, and throughout your tenancy to get things documented. So one tip that we suggest about getting it in writing is to use email. When you have to get it in writing your landlord on issues such as notice or habitability issues, or even dealing with your neighbors, maybe neighbors and your landlord needs to step in, it's important that you get it in writing, and you can do it over email, and be respectful and non-accusatory. In email, unlike a letter when you're writing, is much more likely to elicit a response from the landlord, because they may just respond with a okay, thanks, or something like that, something that they're not inclined to do with a letter, where they would have to sit down and write it out or type it out and then put it in a letter and send it to you. And that would show that they actually received what you were sending to them, and shows perhaps later in an evidentiary setting that they actually received whatever you sent them. And that, especially in the context of notice, but you should be careful, because we have one caveat to that, is that it's not unheard of for maybe at least to include a provision of how notice should be received by the landlord. So notice may say that it can only be delivered to the landlord in person or through mail. So check your lease before you send a notice to vacate or other kind of notice towards the end of the lease if you're leaving, before you send it over email. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check out the other videos on studentrentertips.com.